The 2025 golf season is wrapping up, and that means it's time to look back at some of the best golf gear of the year. New clubs are right around the corner, but don't worry, it's not too late to get your hands on the proven performers from this past season. As a certified club fitter, my goal is to help each and every one of you feel confident that your setup is helping, not hurting your game. So in this new series, I'll be going over drivers, irons, wedges, putters, and golf balls, giving you all the inside scoop from a club fitter's perspective about which manufacturers were on their A game and which ones fell short in this past year. So without further ado, let's wrap this year up with a bang and get right into it. And in today's video, we are going to be going over the irons that you'll see on tour, the irons built for the better player, your player's irons. And I have to make a couple disclaimers first. Number one is going to be blades are not going to be on this list. If you want blades, that's awesome, but just go out and get whatever company's blade you want. They're all going to be the same. There's not going to be near as much variation from blade to blade as the rest of these irons because there's actually more material behind the ball. And there's just a little bit more room for technology. When getting benefits from a blade, you're generally changing the shaft, the lie angle, the loft, the grip size, the golf ball, stuff like that. Usually the blade itself is not going to be any better or worse than other blades out there. I'm also just saying this because I want to, but I think that very, very few people out there should be playing blades all the way through their set. If you look on tour, even the guys on tour, most of them, that are playing blades in their lower, more scoring clubs, they're going to some sort of split set, some sort of CB, or just other players' iron that's not a blade in their longer irons. And a common misconception is that this is because they need the extra forgiveness, and that might be true a little bit, that it's for forgiveness purposes, but those guys are pretty good ball strikers, man. They don't need forgiveness. You know, if it's there, great, but they're mostly doing it for ball flight, height and landing angle purposes. For the courses that those guys are playing, they're so long, they're so firm, and they're so fast, they need to be able to bring in a ball from really, really, really steep angles with a long iron to keep it on the green. So that's why a lot of those guys go away from blades in their longer irons, not necessarily for the extra forgiveness, although that definitely can be a benefit. They're mostly doing it for actual performance benefits. Now, last disclaimer is going to be that this list, compared to the player's distance irons and the game improvement irons videos, this list was made a lot more based on my own personal testing. Now that's with feel, workability, consistency, all that stuff. So myself and my coworkers, we've all put all of these irons through their paces with different shafts, different heads, lofts, lies, every different thing that you can imagine, we've probably tested them. So it's going to be a lot more based on our personal findings than anything else. Now, with that being said, let's jump into the list. With number 5, I went with the Srixon ZXi7s. Now, if you've seen any of my What's in the Bag videos, you would know that I game the Srixon ZX7 Mark IIs, which are just the previous generation of the ZXIs. But I have tested the ZXIs a ton. I'm probably going to put them in my bag next year. And here's what I found in my testing. The ZXIs, compared to the previous generations, they feel a little bit better. They're also a little bit hotter from what I've found, and they're definitely more forgiving. So on slightly off-center strikes, off the toe, off the heel, I found that it still goes farther. There's still a little bit more forgiveness there, but there is one downside that I found, and that is that the ZXI line compared to the ZX, whatever, 7s, 5s, 4s, whatever it may be, in the previous generations, the new ones definitely spin less. And I say that in a negative way for myself, just because I'm a lower spin player. I hit pretty low spin draws with my irons, so that's not ideal for me, but there are definitely ways to get around it. I'll bend my lofts weak. I'll play a higher spinning shaft, so I'll probably go to a Modus or something like that. And then I can also change golf ball. Right now I'm in the Z-Star XV from Srixon, which is their lower spinning ball. I'm probably going to make the switch to the regular Z-Star or the Z-Star Diamond next year, and that should take care of any spin issues that I may have. And then I've talked about it plenty of times before, the Srixon irons all have V-sole technology, which again, I've talked about so much before. You know my thoughts on that. I think it's some of the best technology in irons in the entire game of golf, and it leads to the best turf interaction on the market. So yeah, coming in at number 5 is going to be the Srixon ZXi7s. Overall, a really solid option. Coming in at number 4 is going to be the new and improved Titleist T100s. And I actually have a video on my channel where I went and got fit for these by a pro Titleist fitter. From what I found, they have definitely improved the feel of these irons, and they've made them more workable. I found the old T100s to be a little bit tougher to work than the new ones, but the new ones, you know, I was hitting high draws, low cuts, taking distance off if I needed to while keeping the spin up. That's really important. So overall, I do think the new T100s are an improvement over the old line. I also found that they weren't as unforgiving in the longer irons as I thought they were going to be. We tested the T100s and the T150s in the longer irons, and while they are still a player's iron, so if you don't hit it out of the general middle of the face, you are going to be punished, they weren't as punishing as I really thought they were going to be. So the T100s, overall a great option. I think that, like I said, they have improved the feel. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have the best feel on this list. You'll see some other options as we go on that probably have better feel. Honestly, I'd say the top 3 all feel a little bit better, but they've definitely improved the feel versus the previous generation of the T-Series irons. Now moving on to the top 3, coming in at number 3 is going to be the Mizuno Pro 243. Listen, you had to know Mizuno was going to be on this list. It has that classic Mizuno forged feel. Feels absolutely incredible. It's probably the most forgiving iron that I have on this list. I found that, you know, it really helps launch the ball high in the air. So if you are a higher launch player, you might need to strengthen the loss on these a little bit, or they'll just skyrocket to the moon. But that's not a bad problem to have. These are probably the irons on this list that fit the largest population of golfers out there. I've fit, you know, anywhere from, I think, a 10 handicap down to a plus handicap golfer into these irons. Overall, I think they're awesome. The only downside that I would have for these compared to the other 4 on this list is that they're not quite as workable. You definitely can work them. You can work them left to right, right to left, but it's a little bit tougher. You have to work a little bit harder to get that real shot shaping ability out of these irons. Other than that, I have nothing bad to say. There are a couple shots in my testings where I thought I hit the ball so bad, like one hand finish, like I thought I hit it off the toe. I almost missed the golf ball, and somehow they still flew, you know, almost the same apex, you know, a little bit shorter, but, you know, they still had over a 50-degree landing angle with a 7-iron, which is pretty optimal. So in my testing, these were by far the most forgiving on this list and one of the most consistent. Now coming in at number 2, I have an iron that I was shocked by. I expected it to be good. I didn't expect it to be this good, and that's going to be the TaylorMade P7CB. This is by far, no question in my mind, the best feeling P-Series iron that I have ever hit. They feel soft, they feel buttery, and if you saw the Player's Distance irons video, that's kind of been a trend with the new P-Series irons. The new P790 feels much, much better than the old versions, and that's kind of a downfall that TaylorMade irons had in the past. They felt a little bit clicky. They didn't feel all that satisfying and soft. That is not the case anymore. The new P770s, the new P790s, and the new P7CBs, they feel absolutely incredible. I found the gapping between the irons, they have that changing center of gravity. So in your longer irons, they're going to have a lower center of gravity to help launch. In the higher irons, or the more scoring clubs, shorter irons, they're going to raise the center of gravity a little bit for a little bit more spin, a little bit more control. And I found that they've done a really good job of making gapping pretty easy. The spin is all proper, and hitting distances became really easy because the ball speed was the same and it was really consistent throughout the entire iron set. They're also relatively forgiving for this list. They're not as forgiving as like the 243, but they are a relatively forgiving iron. And for the amount of forgiveness that they have, I found that they were super workable as well. You could, you know, work them right to left, left to right. You could also work them really, really low, or you could launch them to the moon if you wanted to. I think overall these irons are really, really solid. And if you've seen my last few videos, I mean, TaylorMade's on the up and up for irons. They've kind of been known for for their drivers in the past, maybe not as much for their irons other than the P790. But overall, the past year, 2 years, I think TaylorMade has made huge strides in their irons in general. So yeah, number 2, TaylorMade P7CB, and I'm really, really excited to see where they go from here. And coming in at number 1, drumroll please, we are gonna go back to the well. We are gonna go back to a Mizuno iron. This time it's gonna be the Mizuno Pro S3. Now I haven't talked too much about looks because when you're looking at players' irons, they're all gonna look pretty good. They're all gonna look thin. They're all gonna look good behind the ball. That's kind of a staple of the players' irons. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the looks of the S3s. I think they are maybe my favorite looking iron in golf. I know I said that about the i530 in the last video from Ping, but I think in the players iron category, the Mizuno Pro S3s are unmatched in terms of just bag appeal. Not to mention they might be the best feeling iron that I have ever hit in my entire life. Not that I should be shocked, they are a Mizuno forged iron after all, but just, I mean, it goes back to Mizuno time and time again. They're known for their players irons, and that's deserved. You know, they absolutely should be known for their players irons because they kill it every time. Now there are a couple things to note with this iron. They launch really, really high with a ton of spin. So if you're somebody that already, you know, launches the ball pretty high and has a ton of backspin, you might want to actually strengthen the loft. So you might want to bend the lofts a little bit strong to bring that height and bring that that landing angle down, because I found that it could get too high. Now I don't have that problem. I hit, like I said, I hit pretty low spin draws, but I had a coworker who hits pretty high spinny cuts, and his landing angle actually got over 55 with these irons. So for him, he would have to strengthen the lofts, bring that landing angle down a little bit so the ball doesn't really balloon as much in the air. Now the last thing I will say about these irons is that they are probably the most geared towards the player's side of irons. Like I said, there's not going to be any blades on this list, but the S3s are probably the closest of any on this list to a blade. So you really have to be a good ball striker to play these irons. You're not, you know, they're not going to have near as much forgiveness as, say, the 243, which I said was the most forgiving on this list. You really have to be a good ball striker to want to put these in the bag. So there's my list. There's my top 5 players' irons in the game of golf right now. I'm really excited to see where all of these companies go in the future. I see nothing but great things. Coming up next is going to be the top 5 standalone drivers of 2025. I promise you, the number 1 answer in that list will shock you. It's not from a company that you're expecting. I can almost guarantee that. So make sure you're staying tuned, turn those post notifications on, hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss that video. Also, quickly before I go, I have officially partnered with Primo. I have a discount code for you guys. It's going to be AKS15. That's going to save you 15% at checkout. Make sure you guys are using that code, hitting up Primo. I will never wear another pair of joggers ever again. They are, in my opinion, the best pants in the game of golf. Make sure you're checking out Primo. And that is it for me. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you're hitting that like button. Like I said, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. I have the rest of this series coming up. We're going to do drivers, wedges, putters, golf ball. We're going through the whole rest of the bag. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace out.